My name is Leslie Clay. I'm the Chief Development Officer for Hope Cottage. Hope Cottage is Dallas's oldest nonprofit, non-faith-based adoption agency. We have been around since 1918, and November is National Adoption Month. Some people may be aware of that, some people may not. So it's National Adoption Month. So I really appreciate being here to share the Hope Cottage story, answer any questions you might have about Hope Cottage and possibly adoption in general. But I've got a PowerPoint, and so we'll just kind of start going. These are all of the pictures that you're going to see are what we call Hope babies. Children who are adopted through us. You can be 95 years old and we will still refer to you as a Hope baby. And as I say, Hope babies are the smartest, the brightest, the cutest, the most likely to support you when you're old babies that we have. So, June of 1918, the World War I was coming to a close, I should say dying down, and the influenza epidemic was rearing its ugly head around the United States and Europe, decimating the population. And one of our children were literally being abandoned in the streets. So children being abandoned in Dallas is nothing new. These are all newspaper articles from the time. That's one nice thing about being such an old organization. The first week I was there, walked in and there was a huge box that said pictures 1920s to the 1960s, and I found an old, literally from the early 1920s scrapbook with newspaper articles. So children were being abandoned right and left because there was no such thing as unwed motherhood. If you were pregnant outside of marriage, it was shameful, and these women had, there were no resources for these children. And so our founder, Emma Wiley Ballard, at that time worked for the Dallas County Humane Society when it dealt with people instead of what we think of as cats and dogs, rats and ferrets. So she decided she was going to start a home for these abandoned children in June 1918. So there are very few companies that have been in business since 1918 or before with the same name. And hopefully when we all turn 100 in 2018, we're going to have a big old party. I am determined. El Phoenix started the same year that we did, and I thought, if we could just get a nickel for every taco that was sold, that year, that would be great. So we're going to try to figure out how to have a big old party for all of the companies here that it started in 1918 that are still in business. So there's not that many of us in Dallas. But Mrs. Ballard founded Hope Cottage. Our first house was down near Southside on Lamar. So this is looking east towards that area from the courthouse tower. I found a historical picture. And we opened in June 1918, and within 2 weeks, we were full to capacity in our little house. The house was at 1405 Seeger Street, and so we looked for another house, and the Presbyterian Mission Home found us another home, but it was also leaky, costly to maintain. Now remember, this is 1918. We would have sometimes 50 babies living with us, and they would live for several months. There's no air conditioning. We have babies with stinky diapers. And from what I understand, there was either a farm or a dairy farm or something right next door to us. And so the women of Dallas came and toured Hope Cottage, and we're just appalled at the conditions, Stinky diapers, stinky cows, and they went home and galvanized their forces and raised almost $80,000 in the 1920s to build us our home where we were. I know that was a lot of money.
Money was money.
Yes, yes. So we have always enjoyed wonderful support from the community of Dallas. We are one of the original 13 United Way agencies back when it was Community Chest. So if you've ever played Monopoly and always wondered what Community Chest was, it later in Dallas became United Way Metropolitan Dallas. So they built us this wonderful red brick Georgian mansion on Welborn Street, where actually Scottish Rite Hospital has their playground now. So we were at this home from 1922 to 1978, and literally, babies were left on the doorstep, just like you'd see in the movies. Babies would live with us up to a year to make sure they were healthy, make sure that the birth mother didn't change her mind, because adoption has changed a lot over the last 100 years, to make sure there wasn't any other family members to take the children in. And so we had about 50 babies. We actually had a sign on the porch that when our beds were full, we put a sign that said, "No more babies taken." And interestingly enough, if you're familiar with this lot where the hospital is, we backed up to the original parkland. And one of my favorite stories at that time is that I was visiting with one of our older babies, Hope babies, and he was born, I believe it was 1927. And he was born at Parkland, and at that time, children who were born at Parkland to be placed for adoption were given to the police. So baby number 1 of the day would go to Hope Cottage. Baby number 2 of the day would go to Buckner. Baby number 3 of the day would go to Juliet Fowler Home. At that time, they were what was called a baby cottage. And then they would start all over again so that no one baby cottage got inundated with too many babies. And so I was talking with Dr. McIntosh and his wife in all seriousness said, "Oh my goodness, what if he had been born baby number 2? He would have been taken to Buckner and raised a Baptist, and we never would have met, because you know we met in Methodist youth group." And so she firmly believes if her husband had not been baby number 1, he might have been raised a Baptist and they never would have met. So we lived at this property until 1978, and then we sold the property to Texas Scottish Rite, because at that time, children no longer lived with us for up to a year, and the building was older, it had not been maintained, and it just didn't make fiscal sense to stay where we were. These are some of our pictures. This is from the early 1930s, all of our babies in the beds, and with a nursing staff. So we had nurses 24/7. And this is one of my favorite pictures. He kind of was our poster boy. His name's Bobby Nash. That this picture ran in the newspaper with an article the title of the story was "Bobby Needs a Third Mother." He was adopted when he was 9 months old. And then when he was 3 in 1921, his mother came down with tuberculosis, which at that time, there was no cure. All you could do is go west. And that newspaper article actually said her husband left her for a healthy woman. So she knew that she could not raise a child as a single woman with a chronic disease. So she brought him to Hope Cottage. We helped find his third set of parents, as the newspaper article says. And unfortunately, that's where our trail goes dead. We don't know what happened to him, but I just love the little picture of him. We were really good about getting pictures of our kids. This is one of my favorite stories. Hope Watson Rohr, she actually just passed away. She was our oldest living Hope baby that we knew of. She came to us when she was 2 weeks old and we were 2 weeks old. Her mother, her aunt, and her grandmother all died of influenza, and at that time, men did not raise children. So he brought her to Hope Cottage, and she was adopted a few months later. And she said, "I was always so proud to be a Hope baby." She knew from day one that she was adopted. That was one thing that Hope Cottage did, was encourage parents to tell their children that they were adopted, which was not the norm for that time, but that we thought it was very important that the children know they were adopted. So I loved this picture. It hung in my office for a long time, probably because I had a haircut like that, as most little girls did, you know. But always wondered what happened to her, and later found out. But so here's a picture of a before picture of Hope. It seems that her father just kind of got tired of her mom always having to roll her hair on rags. And so he took her down and had her picture made, and then promptly took her to the barber. And this is how Hope came home to her mother. And she said her mother was not real happy, but it was a lot easier taking care of her hair. So we've enjoyed getting to know her, and I've lost my pointer here. Here we go. There we go. All right. Just need to leave it in the same spot. This is one of my favorite pictures of, this is from the 1940s. These are all Hope babies, and it says, "Thank you to you thanks to you, our godfathers, we are getting a good start in life through Hope Cottage with your community, your contributions from the community chest help us, like others, grow into successful, useful citizens like you. P.S. Please don't touch us. Doctor's orders. So I've often wondered about where did they have this for people coming by, but these are all Hope babies. This is from the 1940s.
You showed a picture of a boy that came back at age 3.
Age 3, yes, Bobby.
Was it atypical for you all to take children at that age?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah. These are all Hope babies, or Hope babies being held by their parents at the time. This was a picnic a couple of years ago. We have 2 events every year that are for our families to reunion, come back and visit with us. And remember the gentleman I told you about that his wife cried if he had been born at born number 2. That's him, Dr. McIntosh.
Okay.
And he is at the time holding, at that time, our youngest Hope baby, who was about a week and a half old. And another close-up picture of them. These are our current offices now. We office at the corner of Fitzhugh and McKinney, and our programming has expanded. We do infant adoption, which is what most people think of. We also have foster to adopt programming. These are children who are in foster care who are available for adoption. There are about 100,000 children in the United States in a year that are available for adoption through foster care. These are children who've been removed from their biological homes for abuse or neglect. And so we will do foster to adopt. We have community education programming. We have one that's called Adoption 101 that is actually has nursing CEUs and social worker CEUs tied to it, because adoption laws are different in every state. And we go in and we train hospital personnel how to talk to their patients about adoption who are just wanting information. The same thing with social workers. We offer these, and these are all offered free. We go into other social service agencies around the city, talk about adoption, educate their social work staff, because you never know when somebody might want some information, and you need to be informed as to how adoption works, etc. We also have some programming that we do free in the high schools and the junior highs. One is TMAP, Teen Mentoring and Prevention, and it is an interactive decision-making program where you go in and talk to the kids about making wise decisions. The teachers love it, the kids love it, it's interactive. We're getting ready to expand the programming even more. We also have the ABCs of Adoption, where we go in and talk to the kids and basically de-romanticize teen parenting. Texas is the #1 state in the United States, and Dallas is the #1 city in Texas with the highest repeat teen pregnancy rate. That means children aged 19 and under having 2 or more children before they turn 20. Not exactly something to be proud of, but we're working to help inform kids how tough it is to be a teen parent. But for the last 95 years, we've worked with about 30,000 women and children. Our mission is to nurture and build strong families through education, counseling, and adoption services. Last year, we worked with 147 pregnant women. We work with women regardless of their decision to make an adoption plan. We kind of have one track. If your adoption plan, these social workers with you. If you're going to parent, we want to make sure that you're going to be the best parent that you can be, that these kids get a good start on life. And we actually have some funding that allows us to work with the women who parent for the first year of the baby's life. So that, in a nutshell, is Hope Cottage. I am available to answer any questions you might have. Please feel free to visit our website, www.hopecottage.org. As I say, we have the cutest babies there. But that's kind of Hope Cottage in a nutshell.